What's going on, ladies and gents? It's your boy Neosynthesis coming at you guys with an updated Invoked Thunder deck. So I've been playing like a lot of games with this deck, and more recently I've actually run into a lot more problems with it. I'm sure you guys are aware that if you don't play a ton of games with a deck and you just have a ton of great performances back to back to back to back, you might get a little bit misled on the deck's power level. And I think that kind of happened to me. I don't think this deck is. I think maybe when I first started playing it, I thought that this deck might actually be pushing higher on the tier list than I originally thought. But after a ton of games, I'm really starting to see a lot of its weaknesses and just generally reasons why it's not winning tons and tons of events, especially this version. The Danger Thunder probably is better because the Danger Thunder is a lot more consistent. But anyway, without further ado, but at the same time, I think this deck might be better for the ladder. Just because the deck's better for a tournament doesn't mean it's necessarily better for the ladder. Ladder games are quick, easy. If people seem like they're going to lose it, they often will just concede and save themselves some time. I think this deck, it does really well against the field beneath it. So any deck that I have listed like underneath this deck pretty much stomps because of Thunder Dragon Colossus being a very unfair card. But as you guys kind of know, the higher you get in a tier list, you start getting with more and more unfair stuff. So your Thunder Dragons are good at protecting against destruction, which is good against fair decks. But against, Zodiac, that's going to be making Zeus, or Tri-Brigade, that's going to be making their Omen. Drytrons that are just going to say no to your ability to survive, or Natasha you, or, whatnot. These decks are not really the... These decks are the reasons that this deck is not really that powerful in the meta. But we do run tons and tons of hand traps and stuff like that to try to combat it. So anyway, without any further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get into the card by card. So we're going to start off by just running through the hand traps. 3 Max C, it's the best card in the format. Absolute King. Ooh. Excuse me. Absolute King of the format. And then we have 3 Ash, which is, I think, kind of the second best hand trap in the format. Definitely want to run it because, A, because it's good against the meta and the field in general, and B, because, hey, second best hand trap stops the first best hand trap, so I'm down. And then we are going to run 3 Infinite Impermanents as well for the hand traps. Imperm's really, really strong, and it's one of the few hand traps that there's not really a good answer to when you drop it on turn 1. Sure, if your opponent's got an Omni Negate already set up, it does not matter, but it's not like this thing can be called by the grave or anything like that. If they have Cross Out, they have Cross Out, but I am not seeing very much Cross Out Designator on the ladder. Are you guys seeing a lot of Cross Out Designator on the ladder? I personally like that card, and I think it's good in a format with Maxi, but I definitely need to do some testing with it. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to get caught up on that. Next thing we're going to be running is just 2 Niburu, so we are not running 3 just because this deck is really, really tight space-wise. We need every single of the 40 card slot just to play the bare minimalistic requirements, and I just think that Infinite Impermanence is just a little bit better against the field than Niburu. There's obviously situations where Niburu is way better, or there's situations where Imperm is way better, but I just find that Infinite Impermanence is just generally a card that I would rather draw like multiples of. It's also, Impermanence is also better going first, so you go first a lot with this deck, and drawing Imperm going first is not horrendous, but drawing like 2 Imperm going first isn't even bad, but drawing like 2 Niburu going first, that's going to be pretty brutal for your game. So that's why we're kind of not running the 3rd Nibiru. And then I guess we'll talk about the quote-unquote going second cards. So we run 2 Call by the Grave. This is also a good going first card as well, obviously, but we just want to stop hand traps, and we can stop Eldritch, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the format that Call by the Grave is super good versus. We run 1 Duster because this deck... Yeah, we run 1 Duster because there's enough stuff in the format. There's enough traps in the format to just make me think that running 1 Duster is good. We run the 1 Duster instead of the Lightning Storm just because I feel like Duster, often, like 90% of the time, I'm Dustering for, or I'm lightning storming for Duster effect anyway. So being able to Duster stuff that they set when I have a board, it's nice. And you know, I don't find myself Raigekiing too often, but you know, that might change in the future, just kind of as the meta shifts. But I really am just playing the one Duster, so I have one card in my deck to draw against Eldritch, so I don't just like, if they've got me like locked out of the game, I know there's something in there that I can draw that I can get back in the game. There's some other stuff too, like this is another card we'll talk about, Forbidden Droplets. So if they've got like Skill Drain or something and we need to pop a card, we can Droplet pay our cost with our card and it'll resolve off the field. So that's a cute little interaction. We can use Droplets to get around Skill Drain. But we're not running Droplets for that reason. Obviously, we're running Droplets because it's an insanely good board break card. Yeah, it's just pretty much a necessity in this format, in the best of one format, because you're pretty much guaranteed to go second at least 50% of the time. And you're going to run into stuff that is just going to make you want to instantly disconnect. Like Drytron is one of those decks that will really ruin your day. They'll just set up a board that you can't break unless you draw a Droplet. Same thing with you know, King of Calamities, Turbo, VW. You really need to draw a Droplet versus that deck. Rongo Miniad deck, I think, also is another one that you need to draw Droplets versus. And really, it's just great against the whole format because a lot of people want to set up a controlling monster on like turn one. Like this is another deck that sets up controlling monsters like Mech Buzz and Thunder Dragon Colossus. So you know, this card's just really good against pretty much everything. And it's even good versus, like, it's like really good versus Bird Up, obviously, because they have like multiple negates on turn one. It's good against Tribe, yeah, because you can Droplets their monsters like after they pay the cost, and a lot of times they'll end up kind of in a really kind of stuck spot where they can't actually do much, and you can usually win the game if you can resolve a Droplet in like a crucial situation versus Tri. So you know, I just feel like this card's versatility, it's definitely worth running. I think that you know, I've come around a lot on this card, and I think that most of the time you should be running 3 of this. I really can't think of too many situations where running 3 is not optimal. I mean, perhaps in like Eldritch or like super heavy stun, you don't need to, just because of the kind of construction of the deck. But I still would be really hard pressed to not run 3 Forbidden Droplets in my deck. So, and we've specifically made space to play it. Anyway, that should do it for like the generic stuff. So I'm just gonna run through the Invoked engine. I'm not gonna talk about it too much. It's standard ratios. So we're on the 3 Alistar, the 2 Invocation, and the 2 Meltdown, along with the 1 Terraforming. That's pretty much the whole engine, and then I'll talk about that extra stuff whenever we get to it. If you guys don't know, Terraforming adds Meltdown, Meltdown adds Alistar, Alistar adds Invocation, and then when we use Invocation to fuse into one of our monsters, as long as we end up with a banished Alistar, we can use Invocation in the graveyard to add back Alistar and restart the sloop. So this engine is super sick. Yeah, and Alistar's like a 1-card Mech Buzz as well. So I'll run through the combo that you do, just in case you guys somehow don't know it. Well, because, I mean, when I started playing this deck like a week ago, I didn't even know it, so I'll explain it. So yeah, that's it for the Invoked stuff. It's not too complicated. This stuff's been out for a while, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Like the play line's really linear, so just craft the cards and try it. Honestly, is what I have to say. It's really a lot easier than it probably seems. Alright, anyway, that's it for that engine, and then for the Thunder stuff, we just run 3 of the standard Thunder Dragon, 3 of the Dragon Dark, just 2 of the Dragon Roar, because it's all we're allowed to run, 1 of the Dragon Hawk, because again, it's all that we're allowed to run, and then we're just going to run 1 Dragon Duo. So I'll quickly go through all of their effects. Thunder Dragon's like the classic Metal Raiders effect. You guys probably know. We discard this card and add up to 2 Thunder Dragon from our deck to our hand. Usually you just want to do 1 at a time, because some of your Thunder Dragon cards will proc when you activate a Thunder effect from your hand, so you want to save Thunder effects in your hand. And you can like discard 1 and then discard it again to get like another proc of your Thunder effect in your hand. Dragon Dark is kind of a similar, it's like a retutor of Thunder Dragon. We just discard it and we are allowed to, let's what's this guy's stats? Yeah, it's like an exact retutor of this card. So so we just discard this card and add another Thunder Dragon Dark from our deck to our hand. Or if this card's sent from our field or sent from our field to our graveyard or banished, it will add a Thunder Dragon card from our deck to our hand. So there's a lot of stuff we can search with this card. Oftentimes we're going to be looking for the fusion or one of our limited or semi-limited cards. All right. And then, the effect to like add a Thunder Dragon Dark is a quick effect. So we can do that on our opponent's end phase as well, so that we can have a Thunder Dragon in our graveyard as well as still have the effect loaded up like the six. So we can only use one of each effect of the Thunder Dragon cards. That's the other thing I should mention. So we want to go ahead and use that first effect to get another Dragon Dark in our hand, put one in the graveyard to banish it with maybe an Invocation, or maybe, reshuffle it in with a Thunder Dragon Fusion. Anyway, we'll get into some of the ways, the abilities we have to proc that. Or just we want it in the graveyard for whatever reason, and then we can maybe Allure of Darkness away the other one and get the other effect. But we just want to keep in mind that we can only get one effect per turn of the Thunder cards. So Dragonhawk is the limited one for a reason. We just discard this card, special summon one of our Thunder Dragon monsters that's either banished or in your graveyard. So obviously that's super powerful, basically being like a monster, based monster reborn for the strategy. And then obviously getting our Thunder cards that we haven't used an effect for and putting them on the field so that we can get their if sent from field to the graveyard effects is also super, super dope. This card's limited for a reason. And it's probably the second effect, that if this card's banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, you can shuffle any number of cards into your hand and then draw the same number of cards. So that really can fix a lot of your brick hands if you're able to resolve Dragonhawk. And yeah, mulligans are pretty good in Yu-Gi-Oh, I would say. And then just being able to dig for like more hand traps, because in this deck you get like quote unquote fake advantage because you are like Thunder Dragon is like a +1, but you're just getting Thunder Dragons. So shuffling in those two Thunder Dragons that you +1'd off essentially makes this card economy like neutral. It's already card economy neutral because you don't have to pay a cost, right? If it's just banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, that's how you trigger its effect. But you can get like a theoretical +1 if that might not make sense. Maybe it doesn't, but Thunder Dragon can add up to 2 cards from our deck to our hand. So if we're just gonna shuffle them back in, we can shuffle 2 back in with with Dragonhawk, and we can draw like the same amount of cards, but they're like not Thunder Dragons, so they might actually be useful, help us extend or help us get some traps or disruption for our opponent's turn. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that card. Thunder Dragon Roar just says that we can discard this card and add one of our Thunder Dragon cards that's either banished or in our graveyard back to our hand. So that's cool. You can get back a Thunder Dragon Fusion in a rare situation, but most of the time you're just going to be getting back Dragon Dark or Dragonhawk so that we can continue to use their effects, or Thunder Dragon in the rare situation. It's good. Just being able to trade this card for a card that's either banished or in our graveyard is really, really strong. It's not quite as good as like being able to add it from like our deck to our hand, but it's essentially kind of like a search because of how much the Thunder Dragons search each other and kind of spit each other out of the deck. And then the removes from field or banished, so either sent from the field to the graveyard or banished effect is that we can just special summon a Thunder Dragon monster from our deck, which is amazing. There's a lot of ways we have to utilize those Thunder Dragon cards. So getting them out on the field is great, and we can obviously get their in graveyard effect, their if sent from the field to the graveyard effects if we use them for one of our various ways of utilizing those cards. Whew. And then Thunder Dragon Duo. This card is like not the best, but it's essentially just a 3100 beater that we're going to get on our board. I say 3100. It's 28, but as you guys can see, it gains 300 attack if we activate a monster effect in the hand. So that's cool, and we just special summon it the same way we special summon like Blackluster Soldier or like Chaos Emperor Dragon by banishing a Light and a Dark. It's obviously much better in this deck because it's a Thunder. And then if this card destroys an opponent's card by battle, we can banish 1 card from our graveyard, so that will allow us to proc a Thunder card in that situation, theoretically. And then we can add a Thunder monster from our deck to our hand, so that can be good if we go second and we're able to destroy a monster. We can sometimes unbrick our hands. You know, if we can even set up Dragon Duo in the first place, which is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world, but that's neither here nor there. Then once per turn during your opponent's end phase, this doesn't really proc too much, but it actually went off for me in a couple games recently. We can target one of our banish cards and place it on the top or the bottom of our deck. So sometimes you can even top deck an Alistar in like a situation where you really need to get your engine going, and that can save you for sure. And sometimes you're just shuffling back a monster that you want to search out because you have effects that interact with cards in the deck, but you might be out of cards in the deck. So that's it for like the quote-unquote Thunder monsters. And then I'll talk about Thunder Dragon Fusion. So Thunder Dragon Fusion is a really, really sick card that basically just says special one Thunder Fusion monster from our extra deck by shuffling in the materials from cards on our field, in our graveyard, or our face-up banished cards. So reminiscent of Tri-Brigade Revolt a little bit there, right? Because we can use the banished cards as fusion material, which is super, super strong. And then during our main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, we can banish this card from our graveyard, and we can add one Thunder monster from our deck to our hand. So that's awesome, right? So the reason we don't run 3 is because obviously this card requires a little bit of setup, and it will brick some of our hands. It may not have Thunder monsters in them. But being able to tutor a monster when we get this card back to our hand, or when this card is banished from the graveyard, just being able to tutor out any Thunder monster is super, super clutch. So, and then we also have this card to send off of Verte Anaconda. That might be its actual best application. But like free fusion summons are always good. And then obviously we're going into some insanely good cards. The Thunder cards are really quite strong. So that is going to be... I guess I should also mention Allure of Darkness is like an engine card, basically. So you just draw 2 cards and then banish 1 dark. And then so you want to make sure you have a dark to banish, right? Because if you don't, you have to send your whole hand to the graveyard. So play around that. Just playing around that, guys. We can sometimes get our cards like Thunder Dragon Roar and Thunder Dragon Dark to proc off of Allure of Darkness, which is super sweet. And then the other thing that I do sometimes is banish an Alistar if we have an Invocation in our graveyard. Maybe we used Invocation to fusion summon a Thunder and we didn't really get the Alistar train going. We can get the Alistar train going like cheaply by banishing an Alistar with the Allure of Darkness, right? And then we can use the Invocation to add the Alistar back to hand and normal summon the Alistar and get the Invocation we shuffle back in, and there you go, the Alistar train's rolling. So there are some situations where that does come up. All right, that's it for the main deck. Let's go ahead and run through the extra deck. First of all, I'll go ahead and talk about the 1-card Mechba combo, just in case anybody doesn't know it. So you just normal summon Alistar, get your Invocation. So let's just do it like the longest possible way, actually. So terraforming into Meltdown Meltdown at Alistar. Alistar is normal summoned, adding Invocation. So now we've just got Alistar and Invocation on the field. Not really the best, right? Well, we actually need to link into Salamangreat Almirage, putting Alistar in the graveyard. And then we're going to link into Secure Gardna using the Salamangreat Almirage. And then we can activate Invocation, banishing the Secure Gardna and the Alistar, making Mechba, and then we can use the Invocation effect to add Alistar back to hand. So that's a combo. Just in case anybody doesn't know it. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about those cards as well, because they're just pretty self-explanatory. This being an Omni Negate, kind of, if you have the right cards in your hand. We don't run many traps, but discarding spells is sometimes good in this deck. And then, like I said, you're always going to have that monster because you're always going to be adding back Alistar. So yeah, that's it. That's all I'm going to say about this card. We run Kaliga so we can banish our dark monsters from the field or the graveyard to proc their effects. Also, banishing our opponent's dark monsters I've found has been pretty good in some games. Purgatrio, man, this card's actually like amazing because you just find so many games randomly with this card. The other effect I didn't mention about Alistar is that you can use him kind of like an Honest or a Kalut and make your fusion monster gain 1,000 attack. So this card will oftentimes go up to crazy numbers like 5,500, and as you guys can see, it gains 200 attack for each card our opponent controls. It can attack all monsters our opponent controls, and it inflicts piercing battle damage. So you can find some crazy OTKs with this card if your opponent's not playing around it, or if they don't know you're playing the Invoke stuff. Definitely have to run Purgatrio, and then obviously, like, we have Almirage and Ash Blossom. So Almirage is something we can easily get into our graveyard if we need to, and Ash Blossom I feel like is always in the graveyard, either ours or our opponents. Oh yeah, that's the other beautiful thing about Invocation. If we're summoning a Invoked fusion monster, we can banish cards from our graveyard or our opponent's graveyard. So that makes it a very powerful tool to deal with stuff in our opponent's graveyard as well. And then we just run the one Albedos. So Albedos is like, he's not really the best, but you have to run him because he's like a very good finisher. Basically, when this card is special summon, we can target one monster on our opponent's field and destroy it. So yeah, it's just Alistar and a fusion monster, so we can't like make him off the rip. And then basically, or if a monster is special summon to our opponent's field, basically we can also do that. We can also get the pop effect. So it does have a bit of a controlling effect, but we're mostly using it to basically pop one monster and then use its second effect to banish a fusion monster and have it gain the stats. And then end for like, 3,300 damage in a world where this card's doing the most possible damage. And maybe we have an Alistar in our hand as well that we can, drop as well. You can get big damage out of this deck. So that's why we run this card. And then for the Thunder stuff, so if you guys don't know what Colossus does, basically Colossus just says that if you activated a fusion monster or activated a Thunder effect from your hand, you can just special summon this card from your extra deck by tributing a Thunder Thunder effect non-fusion monster, and it's not even considered a fusion summon, which is sweet because sometimes your opponent will do stuff like, there's a C card out there, I don't even know what it's called, like Confronting C or something, that basically says you can't fusion summon, and your opponent will summon that over to your board, and then you can just go ahead and go into Thunder Dragon Colossus, because it's not a fusion summon, it's just a special summon by tributing the one Thunder effect non-fusion monster. And then when this card's on the board, your opponent cannot add cards from their main deck to the hand, except by drawing them, which is pretty amazing. And then it has a destruction effect as well. So if this card would be destroyed, we can just banish one Thunder monster from our graveyard instead. So this is like the boss monster of the deck. It's limited for a reason. Yeah, we're oftentimes turboing this thing out. Tributing the monster on our field can sometimes also proc its on-field effect, getting us even more advantage. So yeah, we love this card. If we can set this card up and maybe a Mechba, I'm feeling pretty confident about the game. And then Thunder Dragon Titan is the other one. Oh, and then I guess I should also mention the fusion requirements, because you are fusion summoning this thing quite often with either Invocation or Thunder Dragon Fusion. It's just a Thunder Dragon and a Thunder monster. So yeah, that's it. It's not that crazy of a requirement, and oftentimes we're, like I said, with Thunder Dragon Fusion, if we discarded the Thunder Dragon during the game, we can always shuffle it back into the deck and yada yada yada. I think you guys kind of see what I mean here. Basically just if we need to activate either off of Verte or off of the card itself, Thunder Dragon Fusion, we can do that often. Or if we have Invocation in our hand and we just have Invocation plus this card, we can discard this card, search the 2, and then Invocation it out. It's that simple. And then, but oftentimes, most of the time, we're just going to be getting it out. It's kind of like cheating way, like not the right fusion summoning way. All right, and then this card just says 3 Thunder Dragon monsters, so that's any of our Thunder stuff. The other card did require the actual Thunder Dragon, if I'm not mistaken. And then we can also special summon it in a similar way to Colossus by banishing one Thunder monster from our hand and one Thunder Fusion monster you control, except for Thunder Dragon Titan. So most of the time we're not going to be doing that. We don't really want to be banishing Thunder Dragon Colossus unless we can kill our opponent. And this card is oftentimes how we're going to be killing our opponent, or if we can recur Thunder Dragon Colossus, which, as you guys can see, there's a lot of recursion in the deck, like special summoning or adding cards back to the hand with either Dragon Roar or Dragon Hawk. All right. Let's just continue down. When a Thunder monster's effect is activated in the hand, even during the damage step, we can just destroy one card on the field. That's pretty sweet, and that's why you kind of want to save your Thunder Dragon in hand effects, because this card can basically clear your opponent's whole board with non-targeting destruction. Yeah, I'm sure you guys can tell why that might be strong. And then if this card we destroyed, it has an even more generic protection effect. We can just banish 2 cards from our graveyard instead. So destruction is not really the best against the Thunder deck. But, like I already mentioned, all the top decks in the meta don't really do too much destroying anyway. Alright, so for the extra deck, we are running Cross Sheep. Cross Sheep is super, super sweet. Just 2 monsters with different names, and then we essentially just run this card for the effect that if if a fusion monster is special summoned to the zone, it is, or if a monster is fusion summoned, I think. Oh no, yeah, if a monster, so if we can special summon a monster to the fusion zone, we can special summon a monster to the zone that this card points to, a fusion monster. Sorry, we can special summon one level 4 lower monster from our graveyard, which is, you know, cool to do. Extension stuff, getting back Alistar is cool. Getting back, yeah, I think that's really it. Getting back Alistar is pretty cool. There's also, we can also get back the fusion monster, the Albedos, the level 4, and just getting more. I mean, essentially just more link material so that we can go into our bigger boys is always nice. So Cross Sheep is the homie. Definitely want to run this one. Verte Anaconda, I already mentioned pretty extensively that we are just sending this card. Verte Anaconda paying 2,000 life points to send Thunder Dragon Fusion, and having that basically end our turn, or end our turn for special summoning, is definitely worth it. Yeah, just makes any 2 cards we can get on the board into a Thunder Dragon Fusion. So yeah, having access to that card whenever we need it is crucial. Boral Sword. So Boral Sword, I have actually just recently been converted to excuse me, I've recently been Boral Sword pilled. 2,000. If you have a 2,000 beater on your board and you summon Boral Sword and you attack directly with the 2,000 beater, it's game. It's 8,000 life points because you can just send that 2,000 beater to defense once you attack with it, and attack for the second time with Boral Sword. And yeah, 6,000 from Boral Sword, 2,000 from that guy, and game over. So I just think it's interesting. And then it also gains tons of attack. So if stuff is like, you know, unaffected by card effects, but it's just big, Boral Sword is a nice answer to that. We make Appaloosa because there's some boards where we're going to be opening up with Appaloosa and maybe Colossus, or Appaloosa and Mechba. So yeah, we just run Appaloosa because it's just really strong. If you make a 3 material Appaloosa, usually through like Cross Sheep plays, you can win a lot of games. And then for the last card, we're going to run Access Code Docker. It's just like one of the best finishers in the game right now. It's just going to be like, it's like 5,000 damage a lot of the time, and it's well, it's usually 4,000 damage. It's usually about 4,300 damage, so a lot of the time that's game, and if you've got other monsters on board, it's super nice. Your opponent not being able to respond to this card is just insanely OP. And I wouldn't play a deck that it likes to link without access code right now. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed the updated deck profile. I know not too much changed, but I really have become a lot more of a believer in Forbidden Droplets, and I felt like it was just kind of important to get this update out there. Yeah, so like I said, I'm still missing some of the ultra rares that I mentioned last time. Konami has slowed down the good old UR drops, like on my account, to like just about nothing. I don't really have anything I want to disenchant, so I can't make the exact list that I would like at the moment, but we'll get there eventually. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.